I wouldn't say it was a pragmatic decision. This is 4 days before I got married, so whatever savings I did have was spent on a ring that I really shouldn't have paid that much money for, but I knew what I didn't want anymore. So I had to walk without having the next rope to grab onto, you feel me? That was my Faustian deal. You know what I'm saying? When you're in a Faustian deal, that's the Faustian deal. I'm like, I signed the deal, I'm done. If I sign this deal and I accept this offer, I will never be able to walk away from this type of money again in my life. They got me. Everybody's got a price. That was mine.
You're quite a unique, I don't even want to say entrepreneur, I want to say person to begin with, right? Because there's so many different facets in terms of who AJ Leon is. So whether it's the philanthropy, whether it's the filmmaker, whether it's the entrepreneur, whether it's the advisor, whether it's the investor, whether it's the creative writer, like there's the director, there's so many different elements. Like, how do you make all of those things kind of fit in into, say, who you are?
Yeah. So many moons ago, I was living another person's life. And I had a very successful banking career after going to PricewaterhouseCoopers and going, I won't bore you with the whole story. When I evacuated that life, I made myself a promise that, and it occurred to me that this is my one and only life. Yeah. No redos, no mulligans. This is all you get. And the difference between me, I find, and most people that I meet, to them, that sounds like Hallmarkian wisdom. Beautiful thing to put in a fucking birthday card, right? What a great speech. Oh, it's so inspiring. It's not inspiring. It's facts. Yeah. And to me, that shit is imprinted on the inside of my fucking heart, right? So every morning I wake up with that, and that is what calibrates all my decisions from that moment forward. Mm-hmm. And from that moment forward, I'm like, okay, this is my one and only life, and I'm gonna live it 1,000% flamboyantly me. And I'm not going to fucking dilute it at all. There's always trade-offs. You got to make money. You got to figure this out. But as long as you're willing to be creative, you know, and you might fail, right? The reality is I might have ended up living in a fucking car with my wife. And I got to be okay that it was, you know, the adventure of a lifetime and we ended up flaming out, right? It ended up, thus far, it's still working out for me, you know, but it could have gone the other way and I'd still be okay with that because for me, it's you know, it's a story that you live.
And that kind of like pursuit of everything, I saw that was the name of your website. Has that always been there for you from like a very young age? Or was it at that stage at, say, PwC or the financial services company that you said, I'm done? Is that where the epiphany came from in terms of trying to get everything?
Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, I grew up rough and in a weird way, but I was always a dreamer and I have kaleidoscopic interests, I like to say. I'm just interested in a lot of different things. So even from the time when I was a kid, I did want to get involved in a lot of different things. I didn't understand, especially as you get to university, the kind of the wisdom that you get today, right, all over is focus on one thing and focus on it hard, right? Focus on one thing. That's not my experience. For me, it's like, I don't want to focus on one thing. I like to do lots of different things, right? So then I'm there trying to figure out, can I build a life where I get to do all the things by the time I check out, right? That I get to do all the things that I like to do. I didn't get to do that all at once from the very beginning because there's this economic cycle. You got to figure out how to fund the things that you want to do, you know? But yeah, I mean, I had that, you know, since I was a kid, it got totally squeezed out of me. It got squeezed out.
Yeah, because you went into finance, right?
Totally, dude. Totally. You know, and you go into why do you go into that stuff? You know,
to make money.
Yeah. Well, and what's the layer underneath that? As a son of 2 Cuban immigrants, I got to be successful. Yeah. I'm an 18-year-old kid. I've got no guidance. This isn't like, you know, I mean, the only thing you got is Tony Robbins fucking cassette tapes, right? You know what I'm saying? This isn't the internet of today where like we're getting a lot of information. There's a lot of different ways to kind of make a living. You know, now, you know, we're going back to 2008 and 2004, 2003, 2000, like how do you become successful? You make as much money as humanly possible and you bury your fucking detractors in it. And that's what I was planning on fucking doing and I started doing it. But the only problem is I hated my fucking life. You know, I hated my fucking life and I was living some other motherfucker's life.
Was that from the beginning, you say, as soon as you started your like grad job?
Bro, the day I graduated, like so uni, I was on a mission, because when I was a kid, everybody thought I was going to be a drug dealer. All I could do is put a 9-inch ball into an 18-inch hoop, and everybody thought I was going to be a drug dealer. They tried to kick me out of school, all that shit. So when I got to university, I blew out my knee, couldn't play ball, and I'm like, okay, now I'm going to take this shit seriously. You think I'm stupid? And then I was like on a mission to prove everybody wrong. I graduated three degrees in 3.5 years, summa cum laude, #1 in my class in each fucking degree. They couldn't even write it in the registrar. They couldn't even put it in their fucking old ass system, because at that point you can only get 2 degrees. And I did that on the slide because I was on a mission. So I was straight, happy. I'm like, yo, shit. I was getting into Shakespeare, all things that I hadn't gotten into when I was a kid. And I loved university. I lived in that motherfucking library. I didn't drink a drop of alcohol until I was 26, 27 years old, because I come from a family of alcoholics. And I'm like, no, not me. I'm not going to go down that way. I'm going to get my degrees. And that game, I was great. And then after that, I'm like, oh, how can I get into? Oh, I got interviews with PwC. It was fucking hard for a kid like me. I got no connections, no network, and I didn't graduate from motherfucking Harvard. So to get into some of these like PwC, McKinsey, all that shit, it's like you got to fucking hustle. So I'm hustling everybody that I know. Oh, you know anybody? Blah, 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 blah. I finally got an interview. 5 interviews later, I got that job. Day 1, I'm like, I fucking did it. Day 2, I'm like, what the fuck have I done? What the fuck have I done? I'm looking around at this thing and I'm like, I'm a smart guy, right? And I'm not gonna lie to myself. I might lie to the world. I'm not gonna lie to me. All we're doing is pushing paper money around. You know? Yeah. In the end, what I'm doing is just making rich, fat, white dudes richer. That's it. And there's a fucking building, right, that I'm a part, and all of us are part of this fucking thing. And I'm not trying to throw shade at anybody in that industry, and I know I'm going to get, but like that's how I felt from the moment. But what the fuck do you do, dude? What do you do? The reality is like there's not, many options, right? It's like now there's more options. At that point, it's like, okay, so then I kept on going down that track. I kept on, and I was good. During the day, man, I was like killer. I killed it at my job, and I pivoted from one, firm to another. I mean, I killed it. No one would know this story. They'd be shocked, like, what? Because during the day, and then at night, every day, I'm losing another piece of myself. The real AJ Leon somewhere in there is just crumbling every fucking day of my motherfucking life. And I don't know how to save myself. I don't know how to save myself because I'm making money and I'm the envy of all my friends. And what do? To walk away from failure, it's fucking easy. You nut up, dust yourself off, and continue fucking walking. To walk away from success, it's fucking impossible, dude. You know what I'm saying? It's like, how the fuck do you do it? And I didn't know until that one day where it's like I switch everything around. But that's why that day just fucking stuck with me, because it was everything. It wasn't like, oh, I left my career and now I'm going to pursue new things. I didn't have a fucking idea of what the fuck I was going to do. I was just like, I can't do this anymore. This game, I'm inside the game now. I'm at the center of the motherfucking game. I envied the game. I wanted to be in the game. I thought getting to the game and getting to the top of the game, that's it. That I would be at the top, right? But when you reach the top of a pinnacle, of a mountain, right, that somebody else built, and you realize like these are all other people's dreams, man. And I'm just a part of this fucking system that it's not even about money. It's not even about the fact that I'm making these people richer or whatever, even though that kind of sucks, obviously. It's about the fact that I have no agency. I'm just a fucking number out here. You know what I'm saying? And at the moment I exited that, I'm like, never again. I am never do. That's why I'm always like, even though I'm an investor, right? I like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm an investor. I had this conversation with you, and I'm also like, hey, be careful though, because I'm the guy who's going to tell you like, make sure you want to go down the track, because I don't want to put anybody in a position that they end up, creating a prison, except it's locked from the inside and they're the ones holding the fucking key, because that's what happened to me.
When you're crushing it, especially in a world where you're making enough money, it's easy to tell yourself that as I get more senior, eventually I'll have time to do my other activities or my other kind of hobbies. Why didn't that occur as a thought to you? Like, okay, I'll wait till I'm 40 or 50 and then I can do whatever.
How old are you?
33. Okay.
I'm 41. My dad died when he was my age. That's why. People... You're going to tell yourself you got until whenever. And I'm going to tell you that nobody talks about the population of the dead.
Yeah.
There's no infographic about the population. No one talks about how many people die before they get to fucking 50. No one wants to talk about that. Well, it's a lot of fucking people. I experienced a lot of motherfucking death when I was a kid for men that did not reach these epic ages where that's the time when you get to do all the fucking things that you want to do. Mm-hmm. So to me, that's a false economy. I don't fucking buy it. I got a short life. You know, now I'm 40, I'm going to turn 41. That's like, for me, that was like, I got to do everything I'm going to do before that. Because any day I'd get after the day I turned 41, that's gravy, homie. Mm-hmm. That's like fucking cherry on top. That's the way I fucking viewed it. And that's the reality. You could die motherfucking tomorrow. Yeah. And your proximity to mortality is everything, right? And it's not just the idea of mortality, because we all know we're going to die, blah, blah, blah. But it's your proximity to mortality, right? Because if you think, not you, the proverbial you, the person we're talking to, right? If you knew you're going to die in a month, would your decisions change from what you're doing today?
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
6 months.
Yeah.
2 years?
Yeah.
10 years?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Okay. Well, you're 33, so statistically you only got 30 more than what I've just said. Mm. Right?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, and I'm not like, oh, everybody's got to leave their job, and some people might not be able to do that. Sometimes you got to be like, okay, you got to keep this job, and you got to figure out how can you do the things that you want to do, and maybe that's working a 4-day week, or negotiating something with your boss, or moving somewhere fucking different, or doing things on weekends that, I don't know. Like I'm not a fucking. That's why when people ask me to do these things, by the way, I never fucking do them. I never fucking do them because everybody thinks I'm proselytizing, or I'm like Tony Robbins telling everybody to leave their fucking job. I'm not saying. I'm saying I got that epiphany, and I'm like, I got to do something fucking different here, because mortality, it's not like I see it in the rearview mirror all the time, man. Changes all my decisions.
So when you're even having those conversations, especially because, as you said, son of 2 Cuban immigrants, there's a lot of, I don't want to say pressure, but there's a lot of status that comes with, you killing it. And to tell everybody that you're about to quit your job, I don't even know if you plan to quit your job on a particular day, or you just quit and then told them after. Like, how was that process in terms of doing things for yourself, regardless of what other people may think?
Yeah, I mean, luckily for me, I had, probably honestly, the way that I grew up insulated me in some ways from the blows of life, because I really don't give a shit what anybody thinks. I really don't. And the reason why is because no one fucking cares. No one actually fucking cares. Yeah. Your family will talk shit, your friends will talk shit for you making a crazy decision for a week, maybe 2. Then 3 weeks, they're just going back to their fucking pints, and they don't give a shit. So it's all a veneer. It's just like, it's 1 or 2 weeks of discomfort, having to tell people in your life what you've done, And even, my family, honestly, this is my fucking life, and it is my one and only. If anyone is going to try to dictate to me how to live the hours, the minutes, the seconds of my one and only life, even if you're my kin, you're gonna have a fucking problem. You know what I'm saying? If I had 2, maybe I would have 1. I'd just leave 1 and be like, this one, I'll do whatever you want, man. Right? Yeah. Or my friends, or whoever the fuck it is. If I had 3, for sure, if it's a portfolio game, right? I mean, let's see how it plays out. I'll do what they want me to do, and maybe it'll be fine, But I only got this one. I only got this one, and this one, I'm going to listen to one guy. Yeah. This guy.
Love it.
I know I sound like an asshole.
No. It's not at all. Not at all.
I know I sound like
not at all. Like I think
it's like, who the fuck is this piece of shit, and why did I decide?
I think it's more, no. I think it's more around like the kind of process of when you're able to literally, I don't know, like I don't even know how to articulate it, like fully focus on you and yourself.
Yeah.
Because sometimes there's a responsibility, especially if you're like good at school. Let's just say if you're good at school, like good at college, right?
Yep.
You know how to play the game in that certain way.
Yep.
And so it's naturally that when you graduate and you start working in the the normal 9 to 5 order is you start playing the game that way, but then you see that there's not many results. The results don't essentially happen the way you expect it to happen. So you have to take it on yourself. And it takes a certain type of someone to kind of like extract themselves from that, especially if there isn't a plan per se, because you said you didn't have a plan of what you were going to do next.
I mean, I didn't have a plan. Also, kids, I don't suggest, don't try this at home. I'm not saying to anybody like, oh, just evacuate. I mean, for me, it went on too long. It shouldn't have taken it. But no, I didn't.
So then how did you even explain that to, because were you with your wife at that point?
We were 4 days away from getting married.
Okay, so how do you even, so she knew you was like devastated inside, I'm assuming.
She knew I was devastated inside because, real family.
Yeah.
Real family. Fam.
Yeah.
When at the end of your life, you're gonna be able to count your friends on one hand, real friends, real kin, and you're gonna have fingers left over.
Yeah.
That I promise you.
Yeah.
My grandfather told me that when I was a kid, and he was right. Real fam, they want what's best for you.
Yeah.
And they can see it inside and outside of you. I mean, she knew I was fucking dying inside. Now I made the best of it. I'm not a bitch. I'm not gonna whine. I got myself there. I'm successful. We're making money. I'm still doing things, and we're doing vacation. And I've got but she knew. She knew, because I'm basically turned into a manic depressive.
Yeah.
And I'm lost. So when I told her, thank God and this is, partnership's very important, right? It's very important. And it's hard to describe what an amazing partner Melissa is, because it would literally the immediate, I just there was no plan. It was like, I'm offered a promotion that day. I knew it was coming. I didn't know it was coming that day. It's the last day of 2007, right? And then I just thought, whoa, this is it. This is the
2007.
Yeah.
So in the backdrop of the financial crisis.
6 months before. Yeah. so it's great timing. It wasn't prescient timing. It looks like it. Yeah. But yeah, it was during those days.
Did you have like a buffer of savings like ready?
No, because when you're a kid, I mean, I wish I did. And again, don't try this at home. But when you grew up there's no financial education. My dad died when I was 14 years old. And my mom, understandably, right? She she checked out in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
and there, and she didn't really, there just wasn't any financial education, then you think, you're a young kid. I was in my mid 20s, man. I was like, you're making so much money. And the way that it's structured there is you got your salary, but you make money on your bonuses. So, every quarter you're going to make more money than the last quarter, as long as you stick in the game. That's part of the incentivization of staying in the game, right?
See.
It's part of the game, man. Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing with Series, you get to Series B, when you're a startup founder in London, founders, look at their salaries. It's dog shit.
Yeah.
I look at it, I'm like, oh my God, how can you live as a Now you get to Series B.
It's different.
Secondaries.
Yeah.
You can sell some of those shares.
Yeah.
Not Series A, nobody lets you do the Series A. Yeah. Series B, they let you secondary. And then that's the taste, and then, you know what I'm saying? So, but they're only going to give you enough on the secondary to buy a house, maybe. So that there's always incentives to keep you
going to the next game, to the next level, to the next level. It's a game. It's a game.
Well, they need, it's not that, and I'm not trying to. And a lot of VCs are great, and I'm not. It's the system, it's the structure, it's LPs, and it's the whole thing. So I'm not saying, oh, VCs are the devil. I work with a lot of VCs, and they're good. So that's
disclaimer.
right. You know what I mean? I know that that, but if anybody sits back and looks at power law economics, I mean, they would have to say the same things I'm saying.
Yeah.
And that's fine if you're successful, but I've seen a lot of people get a Series B and then they end up selling for parts, and that's 12 years, 15 years later, and they've got nothing to show for it. Look at what's happening right now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fucking there's going to be a graveyard of startups, not only in London. You watch all over, and they're just buying time. And when when the rounds get repriced, like they're getting repriced now, the value of that equity is going to, is going to nothing. And then if you don't get it, it's going to sell for parts, a lot of private equity for, or for literally nothing, and then what do you got to show for it?
It's crazy. Because even with that backdrop, right? And then you have no savings and you don't want to go in finance. So I'm assuming you're like, I don't want to go back into that world to consult or anything like that. So what was your next kind of thought? Because I guess you've got the weight lifted off you. But what did you decide to do next? How did you decide what to do next?
Honestly, man, it was because it was so abrupt,
Yeah.
and because it was a very like spiritual. I wouldn't say it was a pragmatic decision. You know, this is 4 days before I got married, so whatever savings I did have was spent on a ring that I really shouldn't have paid that much money for. You know, a honeymoon. It was like I had planned and paid for a honeymoon all over sub-Saharan Africa with like, you know, the fucking, you know, luxury tents in the middle of Botswana. I mean, it's just like $40,000. You know, it's like, oh yeah, dude. I mean, it was like, but that's the type of money I was making.
Yeah.
Right. And you know, the wedding, all that stuff. Right. And I had nothing. I mean, I had nothing. I even debt. You know, but when I walked out, I didn't have a plan. I didn't. I just knew sometimes in life, like, if you don't know what to do, a lot of people, the question that people ask themselves if they go to YouTube, they try to find advice is like, how do you find, you know, your passion or what you want to do? I think the reality is a lot of us have plurality of passions. So there's many things that you're going to want to do. You know what I'm saying? And that's not the question. The real first principles question is, what don't you want anymore? Right? And I knew what I didn't want anymore. So I had to walk without having the next rope to grab onto. You feel me?
Yeah.
It's dangerous and it's insane, and don't try this at home. I mean, be smarter than AJ and plan and plod on nights and weekends for a year and a half to have that buffer. I didn't have that. That was my Faustian deal. You know what I'm saying? When you're in a Faustian deal, that's the Faustian deal. I'm like, I signed the deal, I'm done.
I'm out.
If I sign this deal and I accept this offer, I will never be able to walk away from this type of money again in my life. They got me, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's got a price. That was mine.
Yeah.
You want to pretend like you don't have a price? Everybody's got a fucking price. You know, everybody does. And that was mine. Yeah. And I knew the moment, but I'll leave in a year. That's not going to happen.
You knew it was time.
Because it's going to be exponential from there. You know, and there's no way I would have that mindset again. The mindset, that's the power. The power is reality. You know, what people call the matrix or whatever the fuck it is, right? Actually having reality distilled in one fucking brief moment of audacity.
That's amazing.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and that's the thing. You're like, sometimes people are literally one brief moment of audacity away from remarkable. Just one moment where you're like, everything snaps and you're like, fuck. This is all bullshit. You don't know what the next rung is. You know, I didn't know what the next rung was, but I knew I couldn't I couldn't do this anymore. And I let go without knowing the next one. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I would not do that again. I would have.
You would do it again though, if time was played back, because
no, I would make that decision again. But if I was coaching little AJ, I'd be like, look, homie, it's gonna be fine.
Yeah.
Because you're talented. And you're going to work your balls off. And like my dad told me about fighting, my dad taught me how to fight when I was a kid. And he said very simply, you can't lose if you don't quit. Keep on swinging.
Keep swinging.
You know what I'm saying? He's swinging, you're swinging. You just just stay on your feet.
So on that, with your first business, your first swing, was that a home run or?
Hell no.
What was it?
Oh, I mean, well, dude, there was they're innumerable, right? But the moment the moment I launched, I was like, okay, I knew this is 2007, so dude, it sounds ancient, right? Sounds ancient, but at the time there were no digital agencies. There were creative Madison Avenue type things, and there wasn't like this bridge in the middle between like creative design, right, for a digital age, and then digital marketing. That didn't exist. I saw a through line there. I thought like, oh, that would be an interesting like intersection. It was a little early.
Yeah.
It was a little early.
So wait. You were going to do creative design as connecting that to a marketing agency with no background of marketing.
Yeah, marketing came later.
Okay, so then you just saw the opportunity. I was like, okay, I'll learn it on the job kind of thing.
Brand identity and design, and which then turned into web design. Again, remember, 2007, dude, Twitter was founded in 2006. Founded at South by Southwest. I mean, Facebook was still on college campuses.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like people
did
not have websites.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, normal businesses there was no, even Wix, Squarespace was 10 years away, bro.
Yeah.
You know, or 7 years away. So it was like, I was just like, okay, I can see this Madison Avenue stuff. I worked around Madison Avenue, so I could see that big brand stuff. And then I can see this rise where this is going to become very democratized. You know, can we bridge the gap and start doing like crazy, beautiful brand identity work? So it wasn't marketing yet, but like if you include brand identity within marketing, for startups, SMBs, you know, for not the Fortune 100, right? That was my thing.
Yeah.
In the end, I was right, but at the time, like at that moment, I mean, bro, we were scraping together. You know, it was just me and Melissa. You know, and you know, I mean, we also took to the road. So we were like, I mean, now it's normal to you know, build a fully distributed team. I mean, we have 55 people that work at Misfit across the world. We've been a distributed company since that date because I also knew tying myself to an office, that would impinge on my freedom. You know, freedom and adventure, I realized were my two virtues. And those were the two things that, like, you want to have virtues that where you can filter out decisions very easily. So anything that impinges on my freedom or my ability to be adventurous, I was like, no. So if somebody, you know, if in New York, and we did have clients in New York that want you to have an office down the road or want you to be in the office as opposed to using, you know, video conferencing and stuff like that, I was like, no.
So how did you get so clear in terms of like what you wanted or what your values were? Did you go through like a process, like an exercise?
When I left, the biggest thing that I did was so we had our honeymoon and then we got back to New York. And at that time we were like, honestly, I mean, my you know, Melissa's still like, she was working as a teacher, teacher salary. So that's, you know, we went from like, oh my God, like Melissa's salary was like, oh, cool, that'll pay for, you know, our champagne bill or whatever, you know what I'm saying? To like, that's until the end of the year. But I had made a promise, like she was going to be out too, and we were just going to do this thing together. And you know, so at that point, once we got back from our honeymoon, I was like, I forgot, honestly, like I forgot who I was as a human being. I forgot who I was, and I needed to go on. Self-discovery is a really douchey term, but I needed to remember who the wild-eyed dreamer of my youth was. And the only thing that I can remember, because when I was a kid, like I said, I was crazy. I did a lot of, you know, creative things, and one of the things Melissa and I did together actually was produce Shakespeare in found spaces.
That's such a unique thing. I've never heard someone do that before.
Yeah. I mean, like immersive theater's now a thing. We were doing it before. We'd I'd rent warehouses out, build sets out, and then the audience would come in, and then some of the audience members, they would know we're actually part of the play, and then we'd do that. We did Julius Caesar, Henry V, Henry IV Part 1 and 2. Never made any money. I lost a ton of money doing it. I wasn't about the money. I just loved doing it.
Yeah.
And so the last time I remember being on fire and feeling, you know, like remembering who that fucking guy was when I was producing Shakespeare. So I actually booked a ticket here, landed at LHR, rented a car that we slept in the whole time, and I didn't know how to drive stick. So I like rented this car, and then you know how to drive? All cars here are fucking manuals, right?
Yeah. It's getting better now, but yeah.
Bro, I got in, I was like, oh no, dude. Oh no. So I had to my first time driving stick was to get out of London to get to Stratford upon Avon. Yeah. And I drove to Stratford upon Avon, which is the birthplace of Shakespeare. And we rented a van. We lived in the van. We cooked oatmeal out of the back of the van with a little burner, and we stayed there for 4 or 5 weeks.
Wow.
In the spring. And that was when I just watched Shakespeare, and I sat there and I started just writing letters to a younger version of myself. And that's when things started to get I had that brief moment of audacity where I left and without the ring, the next rung to grab. But at that moment, that's when I started laying out like, who are you? Like, what do you even, before, like, people always ask, oh, what did you do? Right? That wasn't the question, right? Because making money, dude, I'm a hustler. I'm the son of 2 Cuban immigrants, right? I'm going to make money. Like, I'm going to make money. I'm going to be able to pay my rent and pay, you know, feed my wife. And like, we're going to, you know, like that, I'll figure something out to be able to do that. But who I am, like, how am I going to make decisions of, you know, my one and only life and be true to myself? Like, I had to, you know.
Yeah. I totally relate to that, because I remember, like, for me, because when I quit and I jumped into just different things straight away, there's not enough time to really sit back and actually reflect about what you want and not what other people want. And especially, like, what you said really struck a chord with me about, say, younger AJ, younger Yemi, like, who did they expect to be at, say, 30? Or not even that, like, what dreams did they have?
Yeah.
And why are your dreams no longer present? Because there's nothing that stops us from dreaming other than the reality that we're living in today.
100%.
Because all we see are the reasons why something can't happen.
Yeah.
But then now you kind of have to teach yourself to kind of turn down that pessimistic voice and be like, okay, forget all of the reasons why no, tell me all the reasons why this could work, and therefore let me think about what that future can look like. And I think pinging on your values of, say, what is freedom versus adventure, and knowing that adventure is what you want and being able to come back to it again and again and again, I think is important. Because even when I think about, I done an exercise last year about what my values are, and I always thought it was like some bullshit, fluffy activity. It's not going to mean anything, but it really made me concentrate and understand, what makes me me.
Yeah.
Because everybody else has their perception of who you are, and you have your own perception of who you are. But it's only when you go through like those types of exercises can you start seeing where the dots kind of align, and some things where some people might put an assumption on you as who you are. You might agree with it, you might not agree with it, but at least you can understand where it's coming from. But yeah, some of my values were like things such as like growth or personal development, trying, responsibility as well. And sometimes they come in seasons where, okay, now I might feel more responsible. Yeah. But another time you might be like, I just want to take risks. Yeah. I just want to run away from it. I just want to just see what can happen. And yeah, I think there's a lot of value in doing those kind of exercises.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And for me, one of the, and I didn't have a framework or anything, I was just like, it's funny how writing is actually really cathartic. And I was just writing letters to a younger version of myself. That's what I would do. I'd sit down every day and try to pen a letter to 18-year-old AJ. Tell him what to do. Tell him how life really is. You know what I'm saying? And through that is a cathartic thing, because then I'm looking back at these letters that I literally wrote to myself, and I started to find through lines, and for me, when I say virtues, it's not like virtues in a traditional ancient sense, because I believe in loyalty and love and all those things. But for me personally, freedom and adventure, what I wanted to do is think like go back and back to try to figure out what are filters that if a decision, anything, an investment, a client, a relationship, a friendship, a partnership, a trip, whatever, if it crosses these things, I know that I'm making a trade-off. And I know that that's at the root of this thing that I felt. And for me personally, it was freedom and adventure.
Those are the two.
I want to be free. I've never taken, now I'm an investor and I invest, I've never taken any money from anybody for that reason, right? I'm willing to trade away dollars for freedom.
Where does that come from?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if it's the immigrant thing, I don't know. Like my family, my dad was ferociously independent, so was my mom. As immigrants, it's very hard for them to get jobs, right? Because they're not even citizens. Yeah. And then it's like, so then they have to like hustle to do stuff. My dad was a coke dealer until, he went to prison. Wow. Oh yeah. I mean, my dad was proper, coke dealer in the Cuban mafia in LA and got arrested. I mean, the first memory I have of my dad was when he was in prison. And yeah. I mean, if every lawyer in the United States studies Leon versus United States Supreme Court, because it changed search and seizure laws and all that. But he was a hustler. And then by the time he got out, he's a felon now. And he's a good man. The Cuban mafia tried to pull him back in. He told them to go fuck off. Yeah. And he never ratted anybody out. So they didn't they didn't do anything to him, which is, cool. And then, but he's got to hustle. He's got to make money. So he gets into real estate, blah, blah, whatever. And I don't know, maybe it's that, maybe I read too much fucking, Shakespeare and Ibsen. I don't know, dude. I don't know where I get it, but I've got like a ferocious sense of just independence and freedom. To me is, I think it's probably true of everybody, but in quotients, right? Some people are okay, relinquishing freedom. For me, it's like, that's why it's like, people ask, aren't they the same thing, freedom and adventure? They are kind of, but I really reserve the right in my life to fuck off whenever the fuck I want and disappear on a grand adventure. And you can't do that if you got, you know, if you've made the trade-off, like if I had a ton of stakeholders or, you know, I've never had a partner at Misfit, right? A business partner, you know, for the same reason.
Well,
you know?
Melissa, no?
Yeah, Melissa, yeah, but we're not, I mean, that's not a business partner. That's like, you know.
Well, you know, because this is the thing, because a lot of people are turned off from getting married or settling down because they can see that might impinge on their freedom of being an entrepreneur, making money, and the rest of it. But for you, it doesn't seem to be the case at all.
No. And honestly, again, like this is why, like, it's hard for me to give advice because people always think that what I'm saying is, you know, like I'm proselytizing some specific way of doing. I'm just saying this is what I went through, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, Melissa and I have been together for 20 years, bro. You know, like it's to say that she's my wife is just such a disservice. That's why I never say that. I'm never like, oh, this is my wife. I never talked about her like she's my wife. That's absurd. It's a wife. That's a fucking piece of paper. What? Because of a stupid piece of paper in New York, in Brooklyn. Now that it's ridiculous. You know, it's a made up construct. She's my fucking boon fucking companion. You know, boon companion till the bitter fucking end.
That's so amazing.
You know what I'm saying? So like when you got somebody like that, and some people have that in wives, you know, some people or husbands, or, you know, some people have that in partners, friends. Sometimes you look at somebody, you're like, man, we are going to fucking ride together to the ends of the fucking earth, till the bitter fucking end. You know, Frodo and Samwise the Brave. Like it's just, that's, you know what I'm saying? And that's why, like, yeah, business partner, everything partner, and you know.
And it's with the virtues, was it also for her like freedom, adventure? Was that also kind of connection?
Yeah. I think, you know, Melissa in specific, she's like, she's a true believer. You know, she's a true believer. So if she believes, she's basically, most people are only willing to go to a party once there's 2 or 3 or 4 people in the party.
Yeah.
Most people are not willing to be the first person at the party. Melissa's the type of person, like, if she believes,
She's there.
she'll party hard and she'll believe other people are going to pile in. So, you know, she believed in me when no one else did and no one else would, because who the fuck am I? You know, so I'm just fucking some scumbag from fucking, you know, son of 2 Cuban immigrants from New York trying to make it in this dark and lonely world.
Yeah.
You know?
So you do a lot of philanthropic work, right? How did that come about? And especially, how do you do it? Because you're essentially trading off making money to make money for other people. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's a good question. So like, I would look at it like, so underneath, I got these 2 virtues, right? Freedom and adventure. Those are personal things. They help me to filter out. It's like, I like making one decision that will help me make 1,000 decisions, right? Like, I just wear these pairs of shoes every day, right? I never have to think about what shoe, because I've only got my triple reds, and when they get fucking nasty as fuck, like they almost are, I just buy new triple reds, and that's it, right? 1 pair. So I like that. That's my these filters are like, something comes in, oh, doesn't hit, no, yes, no. Underneath that, things are more complicated. Right, you can't live. If I just lived my life based on these 2 virtues and acted like that was real life, I'd just be a fucking hippie. I'd just be like some fucking hedonist that's like traveling around the world eating dick and like, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, but I don't want to be like, some people are happy being vagabonds. I'm not a vagabond. I'm a productive person. I want to get shit done, right? But then I was thinking, this, you know, during this period, right? And when I was like, you know, I call myself a kid now, but I was in my 20s. I was like, okay, well, what are those things? And what are the, you know, I know the making money part, everybody talks about that, but that's like, of course you got to fucking make money, right? You got to make money to be able to pay rent, I get it, right? That's the game that this whole thing is based off of, right? But then it's like, okay, so there's this commercial, I'm going to call it commercial, right? This is making money, however the fuck you do that, right? But is that 100% of who we are? No. And when people try to say, like, this is why a lot of people are in this cul-de-sac, because what they're told is that all of your passions need to align with how you make money.
Say that again, yes.
That's insane, right? This is how you make money. These are the things you like to do, right? Sometimes these concentric circles will meet just like this, and there's going to be a little space in the middle there where these 2 things meet and where you will be able to make money doing things that you love to do all the time. Like love, and everything's going to fit. But it's never going to be like this. Very rarely, right? Some people, the very thing that makes them money is the only thing on earth they ever fucking want to do. That is fucking rare, dude. That's rare. Typically, it's like, okay, this is the space. Ooh, okay. And sometimes we got to color outside the line. We got to play outside the space and do things we don't really, or not like super excited about, but like that's part of life and blah, blah, blah. So the commercial thing, I feel, is like, it's pretty simple, right? You have to like, you don't want to do something you absolutely hate to do on the other side of the spectrum, right? I don't want to sell cigarettes, right? But do I want to do brand identity for SMBs and startups for the rest of my days? And does that fill up every AJ Leon bucket? No, that's insane. Right? But that's what we're sold.
Yeah.
We're sold that your passion has to align with 100%. Those things have to meet like this. And the thing that you love to do is the thing that people are going to pay you to do. And that's all anyone ever focuses on. That's why they forget about the other two. But as a human being, right, you've got commercial, right? And then there's going to be this, you've got to make the concentric circle, do things you like to do, obviously, to make money. But something, people don't like meeting. No one likes meeting with clients. No one likes to get revisions back. You got to do some stuff you don't like to do to make money, right? The other circle, right? I'd say the very next circle over here that nobody really talks about is creative, right? And within there, I would throw everything. Did you ever want to get into films?
Yeah.
Did you ever want to publish books?
Yeah.
Did you ever want to do art and, hospitality, open coffee shop, open a bar? These are things that are within, it's not like, yes, you could open a bar or publish books to make money, right? But that wouldn't be the number one motivation. Do you see what I mean?
I do. Because I was thinking about this not too long ago. Like, we're sold that our hobbies have to be monetized. And I feel...
bro.
I feel it's like a thing that's happened to millennials just over time because of social media and the rest of it. Like, you see someone making money by just wearing certain types of clothes or doing a piece of artwork, and then you think you yourself can do it. You end up making content, this, that, and the other. You're hoping you can make money out of it, and then it drains the passion away from what you actually love doing. So like, how do you even stop that from happening? Like, how do you find love in your hobby and doing it for the sake of, like, I love doing it?
Well, so I would throw hobbies. Hobbies. Like, I like to go kiteboarding or whatever. I don't even know what the fuck that is. But like, that's hobby. Like, literally for, you do it on vacation or hiking. People like to go on walks, and if that's what you're describing, I mean,
I mean, like, say, I'm trying to think of an example now. Yeah, maybe whether it's hiking, whether it's even writing, blogging. Because I think there's other elements. Like, I wanna make my own rum one day.
Okay, so do you mind if I jump in here? That's a great example, right? That is like, it's a hobby, right? But it's got to exist in the real fucking world, right? Hiking doesn't exist in the real world. You can do whatever the fuck you want to do. No one fucking cares, right? Now, you could tell yourself every fucking hobby's got to, so that you got to start a YouTube channel on hiking, and that's what people do, right? To your point about just pure form hobbies. But when you're talking about that, that's got to live in the real world. It's got to sell somewhere.
Yep.
It's got to be good.
Yeah.
Right? Because you don't want me drinking. I'm a drinker. So you don't want me drinking that shit and being like, yeah.
Take this back.
Listen, this rum is dog shit. Okay. I'm not, so that exists and that is this creative world. So I would put hobbies, I feel like hobbies are out here. Like, you got to know what you like to, if it's reading, hiking, that's not what the fuck I'm talking about. I'm talking about creative things that touch the real world in some way, shape, or form.
Got it.
In other words, you have to operate within the game.
Yeah.
Still economics, still how are you going to get the distillery, still all that shit, right? But, and this is the big but, right? People conflate. They think that because you start a rum company, you're playing the binary game, right? In the commercial world, it's a binary game, baby. You got to make money. You either make money, you lose money, period.
Yeah.
You make the money to pay your mortgage, to pay your rent, to pay blah, blah, to feed your kids, and then have enough left over to fund these, to seed fund yourself, right? Or you probably don't get to do these motherfucking things, right? And it's a binary game, right? These things in this constituent are the infinity game. And in an infinity game, the purpose of playing the game is simply to continue playing the game. This is win-lose. If you don't make the money that you need to make, you don't get to do the things you want to do, like eat a sandwich or pay your fucking rent or fund these things. But this, the only reason you need to do these things is in order to continue doing them. Profit doesn't matter. Do you see what I mean?
So it's like passion projects, essentially.
I don't have to make money doing films.
Yeah.
All I have to do is make enough money to continue doing films. Because you know what I'm saying? When I open a bar, I'm opening a bar in Cape Town next month, right? I don't care about whether I make money from that bar. I can't lose money, right? But the mere just having that bar makes me happy. You know, we're paying a bunch of people. I get to be creative. I get to do my thing. You know, blah blah blah. If you're a rum company, like you want to do that. That's a passion thing. Why do you? If you're already commercially making money somewhere else, right? And then you seed fund this, and maybe you pay yourself back so you can seed fund other things, right? But as long as this rum company doesn't lose money, are you happy making rum? I mean, you get to do the thing that you wanted to do, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There you go. Now, you can tweak and dial and this and that to try to see if one of these things could potentially, you know, make some money back. That's great. But if it doesn't, as long as it doesn't lose money, the purpose of creative projects in our lives is simply, I mean, a lot of them are just to continue doing them. And I think we, as within a capitalist world, are sold a bill of dog shit, which is basically every fucking thing that we apply our energy to
Has to make money.
has to make a lot of money, right? And if it breaks even, if I run a restaurant and it's the coolest fucking restaurant in all of Shoreditch, right? No, I make money somewhere else. I've got my commercial stuff. I'm saying, but I founded it. I love it. All my friends that get to go there, you know, we get to hang out there, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, it pays its staff and doesn't lose any money. Maybe it makes a little, but it doesn't make a ton. But I love it. What am I going to shut it down because it doesn't make money? That's absurd, right? I mean, it to me, as a person, person like me, that to me is crazy.
Yeah.
And if you try to apply the commercial metric to every creative thing that you ever do, then you're not going to do any of these things.
So how do you stop yourself from applying that commercial metric?
I don't give a shit about money.
Yeah.
You know, I know how to make it. I make enough. You know, I mean, I make good money. But I calculate it, right? I'm like, okay, these little AJ, like even young AJ, right? Little baby AJ was like, okay, these are the things that I want to do. So I always had these big dreams of wanting to open bars and wanting to, produce films and publish books and all this stuff. And I had to, one by one, I had to figure out, okay, generate enough revenue here in the commercial things that I do to be able to pay the people that need to be part of that, right? Pay my lifestyle, and my lifestyle is it's not like I don't own, I own nothing. I mean, I own 7 shirts, 1 pair of jeans, but I fucking travel a lot, right? Because I love travel. So the money that people spend towards shit, I spend on it. I mean, I've traveled to fucking 75 countries and, and neither one of my parents had a passport, you know? So like, and that's what I do now, so I've got to be able to fund that. And then I've got to be able to have enough money left over to be able to seed fund these other activities. Hopefully I can get these things to the point where they're breaking even or maybe returning some. You get surprised. Sometimes, you do your rum company, it's like, fuck, it is making money and that's great, but you got to be happy. If it's not, but it breaks even and it doesn't lose money, but it brings you tons of joy, great, sweet. Hire a team around it, awesome. You get to scale that out. You get to work on other things, right? That was my model. It's not everybody's model, right? But to me, I just think free market capitalism, it's to apply this binary game thinking to everything we fucking do, to me personally, I'm not trying to make fun of anybody, whatever, is fucking absurd. And I don't think that anyone on a first principles basis would actually think that way. I think we inherit these ways of thinking, right? And then I say it and it sounds fucking crazy, and yet everybody loves, going to my bars and watching the films and you know what I'm saying?
Eating up your money.
And they're all like, hey, I wish I could do that too. I'd be like, you can. You can, yeah. You just have to judge based on, you have to look at the game that you're playing. You're not always playing the same game. It's not always a binary game. You know what I'm saying? So philanthropy, that's a losing game, right? That's winning in my heart, but it's a capital outflow. Yeah. Right? That is a pure capital outflow. So I have to have again, within commercial, this sphere here has to have enough money to be. Now I'm not working. When I started, it was did one thing, one creative thing that I wanted to do. And then, oh, okay, let's see what we can. And I, you know, some of those things end because they've got a life cycle. They've got a beginning, middle, and end, and that's it. Some things, like with film, I've been able to build a production company. Now we've got a slate. We've gotten involved in multiple films. So now it's like, you know, there's going to be there's a virtuous cycle of being able to do it all the time, right? Some, like my conference, I wanted to do it for 3 years. We did it for 3 years. Great. It's an amazing thing. I wanted to produce an amazing fucking conference in Fargo, North Dakota. I fucking did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then once it gets to philanthropy, which is its own sort, this is not creative. This is like, I want to help people. I've got to have some portion of this commercial. It's going to go directly to here, and I'm giving this money away. But the reason why I did that was because the picture that I just laid out, right? And I'm glad you brought up hobbies, because I think that's part of the kind of matrix, you know? Although I was just focusing on when things touch the real world, because even philanthropy touches the real world. If you're going to like build a well in Africa, whatever, you got to, you know, you've got to figure out how to do that.
Yeah.
Hobbies are like, you know, you could like hiking and you can do that on your own. You should do things you like, right? Spend the nights and weekends doing things you like. So I would put hobbies around, but I would say have your virtues. Like, what are the things that if a decision comes up and it crosses one of these things, it's an absolute no. That'll just make your life so much fucking easier. Because then you're not, you know, not every opportunity you're considering. Yeah. Like for me, if I considered every opportunity, I'd fucking, you know, it's just too much, right? I know bing, it hits that. Nope. It helps me say no to a lot of things, helps me focus my attention on the things that preserve this. But then underneath that, when it gets complicated, my life is commercial, right? Creative. For me, this creative zone, we're not talking about hobbies over here. Creative zone includes producing films, producing conferences, opening bars. I also want to do, you know, my own bourbon brand, you know, like things. I haven't gotten to certain things on the list, all that stuff. And then philanthropy. And that is, for me, people have different ways of like doing philanthropy. For me, I'm like a very Jesus and the woman at the well type of giver. Why that woman and why that well? Well, because Jesus was there and so was she, right? So I'm a very like, I want to be in a position to help people out that I just run into personally.
Yeah.
That's what I do. So like, you know, if all these projects that we've done all across the world, I literally ran into somebody and it's like, I can say yes, because I've got a portion of this capital I keep aside to be able to say, yes, Candy Agaba in Kampala, Uganda, you want to do this program that is going to put all these young girls into school instead of marrying these fucking assholes that'll fucking keep them in prison. And it's going to, you know, change, you know, women's economic empowerment is an incredible thing, but it's not an abstract. I'm not donating to some platform. I met her. She needs $5K, $10K to start that up. Bang, here's a check.
Here's your seed money.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's a capital outflow. I'm not like, oh, how am I going to, I just know. But if you are able to do things that make money and say you make enough money to live the life that you want to live, right? And assume that you're not a person who like loves Ferraris and fucking Hermes bags and all this dog shit, right? Imagine if you're just a normal person who hasn't been fucking completely washed through propaganda. You've got, you know, desire. You can quantify those desires, whatever those materialistic or experiences, whatever the fuck it is. You can make enough money to have enough set aside to be able to do at least one creative project at a time, right? At a time that you get to work on, and then, you know, say like every quarter, you know, or every half a year, you get to really affect somebody's life, one person or group of people, but you get to see them and touch them, right? That to me is a whole picture of a person, right? Have you ever met a person that had all those three things that wasn't happy as fuck?
It's a good question. It's not often you meet people who have all those three things anyway, because I feel sometimes when you have the commercial element, like, so if the commercial element isn't going well, it can affect your decision making at the top. And so you're therefore making decisions which are against what you wanted in the first place, right? Against freedom, against the adventure. Has there been a time where you felt you were compromising too much, where things might have not been going as well as expected?
I mean, definitely things have gone up and down, you know, topsy-turvy a ton of times. You know, it's been a roller coaster. It's not like, you know, up and to the right. I'm proud of myself in the sense that in the moments when that came up, where I would have really made a decision I couldn't walk back from, you know? So there were opportunities to bring in big investors, people that wanted to own a bit of Misfit. I closed down my conference before I would take any money for it because I knew it would kill the very thing I loved. There's been a lot of moments where I've been like, no, this doesn't fit in. And, you know, so I it's very important to preserve your ability.
Hello, AJ. By the way, it's 1743.
Is that my fucking phone?
It must be.
That is so weird.
I've never heard that before. It must have must have been listening or something.
Oh my god, bro, that's fuck, dude. That's so fucked up. Like, why do we live in this time?
I know, right?
Jeez. Anyways, I forgot what the fuck I was saying.
So like,
Oh yeah,
things not going right or whatever. Yeah.
I mean, things don't go right, but that's different than you actively making a decision that will put you in a position where you'll be trapped. Right? Things are not going to go right. Like you're going to lose clients and or jobs or whatever, or this idea might not work out. There's a lot of things that I've launched, that commercial things, projects, products that just didn't work out for one way, for one reason or another, right? But to put yourself in a position where you will literally incarcerate yourself and not be able to actively pursue these other two things, unless this is the thing that fills you up, right? You're gonna find that you're trapped in a prison, except it's locked from the inside and you're holding the key. Yeah. And I find a lot of so in the startup world, a lot of people, and again, I'm not throwing shade. It's just because we both operate in that world. So but if you take a Series A, Series B, you're on that track. Your investors, if you're like, oh, I am flying to Ghana to work on this really interesting philanthropic project. Oh, I'm producing films. Oh, on the weekend only. Your investors are going to be like, I'm sorry, what are you doing? Because they want you to stay focused on the thing that makes them money. And maybe you do get to do the creative things later on in life. Maybe you're not my dad and you don't eat it early.
So you're not a big proponent of focusing on one thing. You like diversification.
I think it's insane to focus on one thing. I don't think it maps to the human condition. I think we do it. I understand why we do it, and I understand why. I mean, even when, as I say this, I'm investing in startup, because if that's their choice, right, and they want to do this one thing for the next 20, that's their choice, right? But I don't think it maps. I think that we're way more diverse than we give ourselves credit for.
Yeah.
And I think we inherit ways of thinking that, and then by inheriting those ways of thinking, we end up making decisions that incarcerate us to those ways of thinking.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
We're not unlocked units, but the picture I've just painted of imagine you've got somebody who, they've got the commercial side, and again, they don't have to make it. Maybe they have to move to fucking Southeast Asia in order to make it work commercial, because they've got to lower their cost of living or move to maybe they can't live in New York, right? Whatever the fuck it is, right? But as long as you've got enough to be able to cover your own and then enough to be able to do at least one creative thing that is off the books, right? But it's not hiking. It's your rum brand. It's something that you're really passionate about, that you love fucking doing, that may or may not monetize, but the whole fucking point of doing it is to continue doing it, right? And then at the same time, once a year, you set aside a little money where you really fucking help somebody out. Yeah. Some person or group of people, you go out, you see them. If you get that, that's the human condition, right? Every human alive would be like, fuck, yeah, that's my dream. That would be awesome. That's what I mean, right? Yeah. Where it's this focus on one thing, that's an economic thing, right? We're just, those are inherited ideas. Why would we even fucking do that? Do you wake up? I mean, everyone you've ever met, you think anyone wakes up wanting to just do this?
But they say that doing the one thing is also mapped to say discipline, right? And so, because it's that inherited thinking. For example, if you worked a certain way where you wake up in the morning, you sit down, you look at your emails first thing, you naturally think that that's what you're meant to do every single day. Even if there's no need to check your emails, you can check it on the fly. You don't even working in the office. I think that that's an inherited thinking, which now has been shaken a lot, because you can find out ways to do things which have distributed teams, right? But I feel when you're trying to shake that off, how do you balance that feeling of not being busy, but people feel being busy is being productive, but they're two different things.
Yeah.
You know, and you kind of have to figure out what productive is versus being busy.
Sure.
Yeah. Because I feel like inherited thinking is being busy all the time,
Oh, totally agree.
but it's not.
No, and I think for me, it's like a step. It's like 2 rungs up the ladder from there, where it's like, what do you want your life to be?
Yeah.
Let's not even talk about Wednesday at 3:00. What are you doing? I don't even want to talk about like, oh, what's your daily routine? I'm just
I was
saying,
going to ask you that as well.
and I'll answer the question, but I'm saying
Yeah.
in this context, right? That's like we would be having 2 different conversations, because what I would say is, you're 33. When you're 50, right? Well, future Yemi, older Yemi, what do you want? Like, what would make you happy 10 years from now if you looked and were like, yeah, fuck, I did a rum brand, I got to travel to these 6 places, whatever the fuck that is, you got to map back from there. That's what I mean, right? And if people did that, first principles, like without any other thought, they're really sitting there like, what do I want? Like 5 years from now, I think 5 years from now is a great metric. 10 years from now is so insane. Like how it's too far away. The world changes so much, right? But 5 years from now, what would make me happy? Like, like where, and honestly, I think using these 3, like assuming you're a person that likes to help other people, which I think most people are, and assuming you're a person that isn't just like, I don't know, like just enamored with the idea of business and this is the only thing you like to do is make money. Assuming that you're one of us that like grew up and was like, man, I'd love to produce films. Okay, cool. Well, why don't you? Oh, well, I don't know anything about it. Well, doesn't it cost a lot of money? Well, not to do a short, and that's where you start. I produce shorts, and then you get, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's something powerful in just being sure about what you want it is, because I feel like going back to what you said, being clear on what you don't want.
Yeah.
Then the next step is being clear on what you do want, because then when opportunities come, as you were saying, you can filter between does it make sense for me? Does it make sense for me to do it or not to do it? I had a problem with that in the sense that like I'm very flexible, and I could see any opportunity as a development opportunity, whether it might not be in the direct line for me, because I expected something to happen, like a glitch, that will shake me out of the matrix and be able to do what I want to do. But what I realized is that no, you kind of have to have a clear picture of say, okay, here's the end goal. Does this decision take me on that route, or does it take me on a detour that pushes that end goal 5 years from now, or does it bring it closer?
Yeah.
And those kind of active trade-offs rather than a passive trade-off of Yemi of tomorrow can figure it out.
100%, man.
Yeah.
I totally agree. And I would say instead of want singular, I'd say wants plural. And that's where because people try to think like, what's the one thing you want, right? But it might be like the way that you make money, just decouple. I'm not saying you, I'm saying this person, right?
Yeah.
Decoupling the idea of like how we make money from the totality of who we are, right? And I think that's a really important thing to do. And that's what people don't do. And that's when I end up like, no, you don't have, right? So it's like if somebody was like, oh, I'd really love to get into films. I'm like, why don't you?
I think it's because time is money, right? And with things such as, say, film, how do you do it? Like on a day-to-day basis, like you have to be involved to some certain degree. If you're not the actor, if you're not the script writer, if you're not the cameraman, like how do you, especially if you're working a normal 9-to-5 job, like how do you get into film when you have to still show up at the office every single day?
Yeah.
So
Well,
then that's when people say I have to make money with filming.
Sure. I mean, and understood, except like, I don't agree with even a 9-to-5, weekend type thing. I would say like it just depends on how bad. Some people don't want to live a life of independence enough to do anything outside of their 9-to-5. After their 9-to-5, they want to watch Netflix and beat off and whatever the fuck people do. I have no, I don't know what people do for fun these days, to be honest. But like, and that's fine. If they're happy, I'm happy for them. I mean, some people don't have but assuming that you're not, right? And assuming that there are these other things you want to do, well, then you have nights and weekends. And how do you get into film? Back filmmakers. There's like the
There's so many. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
homie, that's what I mean, my easiest way when like this is what people are like. I do so many things, bro. I've done so many different things, and everybody's like, oh, how did you like? But you must have gone to films, bro. I started an agency before. I'd never worked in an agency. I've never worked in venture capital before I did that. I never worked on a film set. I never went to film school. I've never worked in a bar. All the things. I've never fucking worked on a conference team before I produced my first conference. You figure it the fuck out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And the first thing you do is you back other people doing it, because that's the quickest MBA that you can get. So what I would do, if somebody wanted to get into film, I'd be, oh, cool. Well, you live in London, which is one of the fucking there's so many young kids out there making films and shorts, and that's how they build their career. So just a budget short, about 10K, you can become an executive producer on that by giving them, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, something to, now you got to give up your own money, but going to film school is $250,000, right? Kicking some kid 3K is nothing, but now I'm an EP on an actual fucking set, right? With a film school student, right? And their team, and they've got, they built their team. I get to be part of development, pre-production, production, post-production, and if it does get in the festival circuit, I get to go to festivals and build a network.
That's yeah.
Wow. I'm like, I'm like, oh, this is the cheapest investment I ever made. What? 3K.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I did. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
And now, one of our features, which is literally just got announced a week ago. It's called Bad Like Brooklyn Dance Hall, which is about the Jamaican dance hall scene. That was a precursor to hip hop. It's premiering at Tribeca.
Amazing.
Feature doc, right?
Amazing.
And it's premiering at Tribeca. But years ago, I started exactly this way.
Mm-hmm.
That bar in Cape Town that I'm opening. This is the first bar. I'm an investor in a restaurant down the road, right? I'm a small investor, but I wouldn't call myself a partner. It's called Apothecary. It's a great place, restaurant bar. My buddy Dom runs it, so I chucked a little cash in. Was I trying to make money by going into the restaurant industry? That would be the dumbest fucking idea. Yeah. Nobody, you don't make money. Absolutely not. That was me backing a friend, but also I got on the inside. I've gotten to sit there and talk with Dom about the P&L, about wastage, about his situation with the landlord, about marketing, all the stuff that I didn't know. Now, I'm a consummate consumer. I love restaurants and all that stuff. But for that small investment in Apothecary, I knew, I'm just putting that in. Maybe I'll get it back. Maybe I'll get a little. I don't care, right? Because what I get is Dom and his team, and I've gotten to get a ton of knowledge. Now, from that knowledge, I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm ready now to be a named partner at a bar. Right. So I'm looking around the world, I'm traveling around the world, now is my first bar, I'm going to open it in New York? Fuck no. Why? Because if you try to open a bar in New York City, it's a $1 million investment.
Yeah. Easy.
London, 700, 600. So me being a smart, hustler like I am, I'm like, okay, what are geos around the world where I could, I could do something the quality that I want to do, but I could actually afford to be a named partner on it. Right. And I was looking around and meeting people, and I was in Manila and Bangkok, and then I got to Cape Town in August, and it's around my birthday, and I'm feeling good, and I'm going to this fucking bar. I'm at this bar. This is literally how. So I've got this thing in my notebook. Oh, you want to get in the rest? Now I told you how I got into Apothecary right down the road. Right, I got into it, but I knew that was just an education. Great. I'm still a named partner, still open. Hopefully, we get that money back. And then I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm in a place now. I get this industry well enough to be able to open a bar. So I'm looking, not actively, right, but passively, as I travel around meeting. I'm in Cape Town near my birthday. I go to this cafe called Cafe Noir that has a bar program at night. I start hanging out there at night. Nobody's in this fucking place. 0 people, right? But I'm tasting these drinks, and dude, I know cocktails.
These are good.
Some of the best drinks I've ever had in my life.
Amazing,
right? I'm like, who is this guy? Who's the lead bartender? I meet Nick Krause. And I just make friends with Nick Krause. And I'm like, oh, what are you doing here? Oh, I started the program. It's a pandemic. It's really tough in South Africa. I'm like, okay, well, what's your dream? What have you always wanted to do? And he's like, well, I always want to launch a bar. It's called Talking to Strangers. It's kind of a, passion project. And I'm like, well, do you have a deck? What do you? And he's like, oh, you can tell he's just freaking out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, give me a deck by the end of the week. I leave in 2. I'm really interested. He gets a deck together. Blah, blah, blah. He ships it to me. I'm like, dude, I love this concept. This is what Cape Town needs. Right? And I'm like, cool, I'm your first check-in. I'm your first check-in. I'm first domino guy. So now you got my money, right? Now it's much less money to open a bar in Cape Town than it is in London, but that's all he needs, right? But you got my money. Go round up 5 other people and let's get this motherfucker up.
Yeah.
That was this last August. The bar's opening a week from now.
Amazing.
I'm one of 5 named partners, right? Now, whether I make that money, I'm sure I will. Nick's an incredible bartender. I understand the scene in Cape Town. I understand the cocktail scene. I understand how to make great bars and blah, blah, blah. And I know we're going to fucking kill it. We'll probably make that money back. But even if I don't, that's just another rung on the ladder of me being able to then, the next step is Misfit Original. So I've got a fucking long list, but I'm not going to do that until I've now backed 2 people. You know, maybe I'll open another bar with Nick and those partners so that I learn even more, right? I got to get into the P&L. That's touching reality. Before I put 150K of my own money into my own bar, you better believe I'm going to back 2 or 3 people.
For sure.
Because then by then I've gotten the education that most people, they're just going to dump into the first one, and that's a crapshoot.
That's awesome. I like that. It's like a quick ticket into the game.
That's it, bro.
Yeah. Mate, we could just, talk for hours. I've got 2 last questions to ask
Yeah,
you.
dude, and I'm sorry.
That's all right. So if I could give you an extra hour every single day, how would you spend that extra hour?
Drinking bourbon. No. An extra hour every single day.
Because we didn't talk about routine, so this could give insight in terms of like, would you go out for more sleep, more, I don't know, commuting time, more time at home? Like, how would you spend it?
If I had an extra hour every day, I would probably dedicate it to going either to more art galleries for inspiration or to reading, to be honest. That's it.
Cool. What's the worst piece of advice you've ever received that you listened to?
Do one thing and do it very well.
Cool.
But just the one.
Just the one thing. Amazing. Thank you, AJ. Where can people find you, contact you, send their pitch decks to you?
Yeah, exactly. I'm just going to get this slip. Actually, no, people are going to be like, not that guy. Fuck, he hates VC. Yeah, it's just on Twitter. I'm AJ Leon. Same thing on Instagram. And you can find, if you just go to Misfit or search Misfit AJ, you'll find a bunch of stuff. Misfit.co.
Awesome. Appreciate it, AJ. Thank you.
What a pleasure, man.